Morning. Okay. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Happy Life with Maria podcast. Today we have the amazing Dr. Gina Anderson, who is the CEO of Luma Brighter Learning and a learning scientist and a best-selling author and speaker, has an amazing book. So welcome, Dr. Gina
Thank you. Thank
Anderson.
you for having me. I'm so excited to be here today and to spend this next time with you.
Thank you, thank you. So I would love to hear a little bit about your background. I feel like you have a very interesting background of where you started, if you could share.
Yeah, so I actually started my career as a special education teacher. So I went to school, I was in high school and I worked in a classroom. I had an extra period, so I chose that period to work in a classroom with children with, well, they were my peers at the time because I was in high school, but with special needs. And when I was in the classroom, I really loved working with them and helping them do things that they really couldn't do. So when I was in high school, I worked to two individuals that I really resonated with. One was nonverbal. He was a nonverbal individual, and the other individual really also was nonverbal, but he had autism. But he couldn't tie his shoes and he had some mobile challenges. And so with both those individuals, I was always really interested in helping them overcome the hurdles that they had. And I helped one of them write and communicate for the first time, and it really left a huge impression on me that if we really spend the time and we connect with individuals and we show that we really truly want to help them and we give them the tools and opportunities to practice the skills that you can. So I went to school, I spent my undergraduate studying specifically K through 12, and I looked at spending my career in a classroom with children. And I started my career in a middle school and I worked a few years in a middle school. And I actually had my own classroom, but then I was an assist for the special needs classrooms. So I would go out into the classrooms and help all the other classes. And I started to really think about there was so much more I could do to help the population. So I wanted to go back to school. This is about the time technology, computers were just starting to come out. So it kind of dates me a little bit. But, I started to think like, what opportunity do we have with this tool, this computer, that I could learn more about? So I went back and I got my master's degree in a teacher education school at the University of Dayton, go Flyers. And I studied how technology could enhance learning. I taught teachers at the time on how to use technology to enhance their classroom. And I still was curious. I think curiosity obviously is the seed of
Yeah.
life and continued growth and opportunity. So I went back and I started studying in the instructional systems technology department in the learning science department at Indiana University. And I really got interested in really understanding our brain and specifically how we could use our brain as a tool for moving ourselves forward. So that's really kind of the trajectory of where I was at the time where, I co-founded my company.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Thank you for sharing. I feel like it's so interesting for me to hear, somebody who started as a teacher, you started as something completely different, and who would
Mhm.
have known, that years later you would end up founding a new company with your husband, I believe. You found
Yes, uh-huh. He
Tell
was
us
an
the story how the
engineer.
husband got involved.
Yeah, so he's an engineer. He got his doctorate in electrical engineering at Illinois University. And we used to debate all the time. We used to debate how he was taught isn't typical of how adults learn. Because I studied adult learning at the time. And so we would debate how the engineering classes were studied. And it's no wonder there's not a lot of females in engineering classes just because of how they're structured and how the information is delivered and so forth. And so there are differences, in different learning approaches between a lot of different people. And so we would debate that. And so that's where our idea came from. I said, what if we could use learning science and technology and create something that could help support women in STEM education? So we actually created a product called STEM City when we started. And the idea was that we would use a STEM environment to create community for women to solve real business problems, to show how they could contribute at an organization at an engineering level. And we went after so many grants. We went after NSF grant after NSF grant, and we kept losing. We lost and lost and lost. So we decided, we were like, well, we really think this is a really good concept that we could take to businesses. So we took it and we started selling it. And since then, we've pivoted from our original concept. But, a lot of times when you talk to entrepreneurs who start businesses, they usually come from a passion. So mine's a passion. I love it. And it's like what I've studied, what I've always been interested in. A pain, like something that where there's a gap and there has to be a gap or a need for it. And I think about these things. And so for me, there was a pain and there was also a gap and also my passion. So yeah, it all kind of formulated and I couldn't do it alone because I don't I mean I could build a website at the time because I studied instructional systems technology, so I have a technical background, but I'm not at the level of an engineer programming. Of course, there's different levels of the ability to do the work. So I had to partner with someone who is higher technically than me to create what I had in my mind. And we've been in business since 2008 and we're still married. So, two good
That's,
things.
yeah, that's the accomplishment right there.
Yes, absolutely.
That's the accomplishment right there. Amazing. Yeah, I love the whole journey of how it kind of all evolved from one thing to the other to the other. And like you said, it's the passion, it's the need for it. It's how it kind of like creates itself almost
Mhm.
because, you would have never guessed that that's what would happen. But little by little, like step by step, it kind of evolved into that. And I believe you have a new book, Thrive.
I do. I do.
Tell me
So
more.
I wrote my book. I started it at this time last year. It was April last year, so almost over, a little bit over a year. And I wrote it because there's a need for it. I was out presenting at insurance captives last year, and I noticed how people just didn't seem happy. And it was like everywhere I went, everyone was like negative and complaining. And I asked, so I had to speak after lunch, and I had just had lunch with all these people at a table that were just like very negative, there was no sense of hope. And I asked the audience, how many of you feel like a five? Like you feel really good today? And only three people raised their hand. And I thought, there's a real need to help individuals find happiness, find goodness, find love, within. And so I also was doing a podcast at the time. We have over 600,000 learners in our system, and I ask, like, people don't ask people what they want to learn about, do they? It's like we want to know, like, what do you want to learn about? And the drivers were saying they want to learn about depression and gratitude and all these things that are grounded in science that if you can leverage how you move your mind forward, you can actually change your life. And I wanted, there's a lot of like discussion out in social media, just kind of generally, but it's not grounded in science or evidence. It's just, have hope. Or it's like, what does that mean? Like, how do you do that? And so, what I wanted to do was write my own story and bring in this idea of, look, all of us have struggles. I mean, there's everything is going on. We all have to overcome hard things, but that makes us stronger. And actually, I wanted to write the book to give people practical strategies and also additional resources because this isn't just like a one and done opportunity. This is something that you practice every day. And I think I showed you my sunshine jar last time and
I
I was going to
love
bring
this
it.
so much. Let me see.
Yeah, so at my company, so my company's a learning company. And we work in logistics and transportation and supply chain and industries like tangential to that. And our clients, I send little gifts. I do them periodically. I do them when they join our learning community, and then I do them around the holidays. And last year, I gave all of our clients a sunshine jar, and I hired someone. They rolled all these little pieces of paper. These are little, should we open one? These are
Yes,
little
I would
love.
like.
These are little, this is a little sunshine. Now, everyone needs a little sunshine. If you woke up today, you set the context of your day just by your mindset. What did you do the first thing you woke up today? Now, I went and ran. I went and ran, and that is an incredible thing to do. The first thing when you wake up to take a walk or go outside, most people look at their phones. And,
Yep.
and, and it's not good for your brain. I'll tell you. Oh, okay.
Let me see.
Our note says,
What does
I'm
it say?
empowered by my inner sunshine.
Oh, that is perfect. I'm empowered by my inner sunshine. That
I
is
love that.
so
It's so
perfect.
perfect for our conversation. So there's 100 little notes in the jar. And I've been asked, I've had clients reach out to me and say, Gina, do you have any more jars? I only made a certain amount for our clients, but I'm like, you can make your own notes. You can make notes of positivity and hide them, give them to people. I have stickers I carry with me. Choose happiness. I give them to people. The thing is, everyone has inside of them the ability to do these things. And so I just like giving people just reminders that the power of goodness and happiness is inside of each of us.
No, I love those little, when you showed me those notes the last time, I was like, this is so perfect because those little things, it's the smallest things that make the big difference. Like the smallest thing, because when you focus on grows, right? It's what they always say, So if you're deliberately shifting your focus to something positive, to something uplifting, it literally changes the trajectory of the day. It changes your mood.
Absolutely.
You kind of feel different. You want to act different. You see things differently. These little things make all the difference. So I'm like happy you shared that for everybody to see. I hope more people
Uh,
create that. I
Absolutely.
love it
Absolutely.
so
It's
much.
not, and you don't steal it if you take the idea. The thing is, everyone needs that. Everyone needs that. Those little notes of, like you said, small but mighty. We're doing, my holiday gift this year is related to that. It's all around the theme of small things make the biggest difference. And everyone is going to get something to just remind them that because this isn't something that happens like one time. Like you have to continually be engaged to want to connect. You and I talked about this last time when we were
Yes.
just talking about this meaningful connection and you go out and salsa dance and do these things that are like deeply meaningful. Like for learning from a learning science standpoint, you have to do something new to continue to grow and develop the gray and white matter in your brain. You have to continue to learn new things to feel good. And it's the neurotransmitters that are inside each of us. And I mean, there's like 65 or even more that are like flowing through our brains. And we have the opportunity to do things, but people become complacent, and that's why the Surgeon General 2 years ago in 2023, they released this like horrifying report. It's like, quit saying that we're all like unhappy. Like, let's write a happiness. You and I should write a happiness report. That's what we should do.
Yes.
And
Yes.
look at all the people who are happy and doing good things and helping each other and building community because community, when you have learner to learner to learner engagement, we can talk about the different modes of learning. When you
Yes.
have learner to learner to learner engagement, you create the strongest synapse, which means emotional resonance, which links to memory and retention. And there's such a disconnect right now that people are learning alone, they're learning on their phones, they're learning, I want to do my TEDx talk on this because we spend hours looking at our phones instead of looking at each other's eyes.
Yeah, that's like becoming such a big issue. But I would love to talk more about the five learning modes that you just mentioned. Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm very passionate about building community. Learner to learner engagement is one of the most underutilized interaction modes in adult education and businesses. And it's the most powerful. It's one of the most powerful ways of changing lives and motivating people to move forward. And most people don't use that. So you remember doing that maybe in grade school where you'd have little pods and little groups and you'd work together.
Yes.
People talk about conferences and you ask them, what did you remember about the conference? And I bet what they tell you is the lunch that they had with a group of people or going out and being with people. It's the community and those conversations. So learner to learner engagement is one I talk about a lot. The next one is learner to self. My book is all about learner to self. The first step of learning is having someone's attention, and then you have to keep their attention.
How do you get their attention?
Exactly. So you have to think about, you have to tap into human motivation to know what motivates people to want to continue to engage in the learning. We don't do that. We just disseminate content. Content to learner is the highest used interaction mode, but content doesn't change behavior. It just doesn't. A book, I mean, you can read a book, but you're going to be reflecting. You have to know what you're thinking about as you're reading it to be able to move your mind forward. You can read all you want, but it's talking about it, it's interacting with it, it's being part of a community, it's growing in your own thinking, learner to self. If you're going to do content, and this is something we do at Luma, you don't want to do generic content. Look, I can send you right now content on being safe in a parking lot, but you know how to be safe in a parking lot. We all know how to be safe in a parking lot. I just, you think about that, but authentic content, I can scan with my phone the parking lot that I want someone to be safe in and give that to them just in time so they can see the parking lot. That's learner to content. Learner to content has to be authentic. It has to tap into human behavior and motivation. So you have learner to self, learner to content, and then learner to instructor. Everybody needs a coach. I really believe that. We
Yeah.
all have to have our thoughts challenged. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, we think about it. When we were in sports, we all had coaches. I played tennis. I had a tennis coach, and I was a great tennis player. I mean, think of all the great athletes. They all have a coach. All the great speakers, they all have a coach. It's about supporting each other. The instructor does not have to be the sage on the stage disseminating information at you. It has to be collaborative. They have to be a coach, a guide by the side, caring about you, lifting you up, sharing their expertise. That's learner to instructor. It's not somebody standing at the front of the class saying what you have to learn because the thing is, you're not going to remember it anyway because the way your brain works. Like the Ebbinghaus-Hauser forgetful curve shows that within every hour you're losing information after you hear it. So within the first hour, you lose over half. It's like 48 to 51%. You lose a lot of the information and then you lose more every hour after. So
Okay,
it's
okay. So
it's
what if somebody wants to kind of get their message across in a way that is easier to digest? What tip would you say to them?
yeah, well, the first thing is you have to tap into emotional resonance. I mean, think about it. No one forgets not where they were when 9/11 happened if they were alive. Nobody forgets that. Nobody forgets something that created that strength of that synapse in the moment that they needed it. So it's not only delivering it in a way that creates this emotional resonance. And what that means is you have to know why they're there and what they want to learn about. Again, you could have a room full of 3,000 people and they may not even be interested. So you're not going to create that impact for all those people because the reality is what might be interesting to one of them might not be for somebody else. And so that's why we do individualized learning at Luma, where we can tap into motivational theory in all interaction modes to create that impact. Because one message, one way, one time is you're not going to remember it unless it had that emotional resonance. Now, if you repeat the message, so let's say you have a message that you want to deliver, you do it one time, you're going to have to do it seven plus or minus two times. So you keep doing it and keep doing it and keep doing it and keep doing it and keep doing it. I'm trying to get people into a community at my company in Atlanta in November. Or, yeah, it's in Atlanta in November. You can't just send out a postcard and think they're going to come. It's like you have to keep talking about it and sharing the why and talking to them about when it's going to be and again and again and again and again. So it's this repetition. And also, one thing people say to me, well, Gina, I heard this song one time and I remember it. So how does that happen? Like I played this song and I'll never forget it. There's something about novelty. So if it's the first time you heard it,
Yep.
and you may never forget it because it, number one, it was new, but number two, it created emotional resonance. There was something about that song, the music, the chord, the message, the time that you were in your life. Maybe your parent just passed away and you heard this incredible song. So the way that you in that moment felt, the chemicals that were being released created that synapse that you didn't forget. So there are strategies from learning science, from a learner to instructor that you can employ to help. But these orientations that I see, I go out and it's like 5 days of an instructor talking, and then they say, "Well, Gina, I told him that." It's like, okay, well, I mean that the reality is, what if the person is struggling with ADHD? I just wrote an article for Inc. magazine about this in distracted driving, right? Like your mind is wandering. Everyone's mind is wandering, but if you're chemically wired not to be totally focused and your mind's going to wander even more, you have to use different strategies for those people. Um,
Yes, yes, I understand what you're saying. Yeah, the repetition, I definitely agree. I think like the brain learns by repetition. It's just like the known fact. Like you have to repeat it over and over again until it gets embedded in your brain. But
mhm.
the emotional part of it, I like that tip. Is it, would you say it's more like creating a storytelling content? Would that be more emotionally
It, yeah,
resonant?
so I think it's not, people talk about storytelling a lot, and about the story that is important from a learning science standpoint is that the story that the person needs to hear is connected to. So just because you're telling a story doesn't mean it's going to connect with everyone. But let's say I'm talking about abuse. And it's something that I'm telling a story that happened to me. And there's somebody in the audience that also went through a similar abuse. That is going to create emotional resonance for that person. But if I'm talking about drunk driving, and I use this example, and I'm using it to tell people, look, if you drive drunk, you could kill somebody. And that never happened to me, or it didn't happen to someone else. And they're like, well, I know that happens, but it's not really relevant to me. That story isn't going to resonate with that person. So it depends. And that's why you can't do learning one time, one place, one context, because you're not going to reach everybody. And so if you want them to remember it, you have to tap into their own motivation and really their own interests. And so I always ask our companies that we work with, do you ask the learners what they want to learn about? Because we don't draw from the learner-centered standpoint. We usually start from the instructor standpoint. What does the instructor want to tell you instead of what does the learner want to engage with?
Oh, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. I love that. That's exactly the missing piece. I feel like sometimes it's the missing piece that
Yeah,
people don't realize that's the way, the faster way to connect with the audience is ask them first. What did they do?
exactly.
What did they came here to learn? Like what is it that they're interested in? And
Right. It's backwards, right? Because I go out and I'm asked to come speak to people. I have done this before. It's interesting. So I have gone to presentations and given people a choice, but the danger with that is that people have different, half the class wants to hear this and half the class wants to hear this. So it wouldn't make sense for me to do that live in person. What would be better is if I recorded both. I had them both listen to it, come in, put them in pods and discuss questions around my presentation, around the key concepts, and I could be there to walk around and monitor and answer. Then everybody would get what they needed. But the way presentations are typically is people say, Gina, do this topic. I come in and talk. And probably half the people there don't even, they're like, I don't even know. This doesn't really matter to me. You know what I mean? So it's just not effective. It's like, so why do we do that? I don't know. I don't have the answer because I talk about it, but people still like, I'm going to be on Capitol Hill in a few weeks talking to women about how to persuade. And it's, you think about this, it's like, it would probably be effective if we did a different format. It's like, but it's like people train and do things the way they were taught. And it's like a fear of the unknown, but it's so much more impactful. I did this once when I designed a nursing course. I told the program director, let's do it differently. Let's do this nursing course a little differently and let's bring in perspectives and use a Socratic dialogue and do these different methods to engage the learners. I said, if it doesn't work, you can go back and do what you were doing before. And guess what? It was like the program was like ranked third in the nation across all nursing programs for engagement, for outcomes. And it's because you put the learner first. And
Yeah,
that's the
yeah.
key.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's like you said, it's the fear of the unknown. It's the not lack of like fully understanding the human behavior and how they learn. I feel like there's like a disconnect somewhere. That's why it's
Mm.
taking longer for some people to figure out the best way to connect. But I love that, a company like yours exists that can educate people on, what is more effective. And you have spent so much time studying the brain and understanding how it works that it's amazing. It's amazing. So, what are some of the projects you're excited about in the future?
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. Let me tell you this. So, I have seen a pain point where we tell people to coach people, right? So it's like we have these individualized coaching programs where we say, okay, we're going to send out 5 interaction modes. We know the person has these behaviors, they're demonstrating it. We're going to support them and give delivering these different options to help change their behavior. But at the end of the day, they're still doing it. I use texting and driving. So this is the thing I wear.
Wow.
So we all know this isn't an information processing issue. We all know not to text and drive, right? How many people text and drive? I'm not even going to ask you. I'm not going to put you on the spot. I don't text and drive. I wear this as a reminder that I am not going to text and drive. But what if I do it? What's going to happen? Like, what? So for me, the most exciting thing is to be able to use motivational interviewing and cognitive behavior theory to teach people how to coach people to move forward and want to tap into motivation to change their behavior. I wrote my book for individuals. I'm writing, I'm going to put out, maybe it's going to come out in a few weeks. I've written some scripts, but we're going to leverage technology to take those scripts and to be able to share with people who aren't coaches, who aren't professional learning scientists, who are just maybe they're a driver who now is coaching another driver to have strategies to understand not only theory, but to be able to put it into practice. Because most people just, it's not that people they don't know, they just don't know what to say. They don't know how to coach someone. So if someone is texting and driving and they end up texting and driving, what do you say to them? So we're going to give them opportunities to have scripts, to know how to coach, to feel more confident with kindness, empathy, and compassion to help people because people are struggling. And maybe that person who is texting and driving or demonstrating that behavior now has a friend, has a colleague, someone they trust that they can support. So I'm super excited about that.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, hold on. Why is it? Oh, okay, one second. What's interesting to me is like, as we evolve, like as we kind of go through time, we are always kind of becoming the next version of ourselves, the next version of ourselves. So, what would you say to someone who's kind of like done one thing all their life, but now maybe they have a passion for something
Oh,
else?
I would say this, like if you have a passion, don't wait. Explore it. See how you can evolve it. I think it's the fear of the unknown that holds us back, but it's the courage that we have to move forward that changes our life. So I think that if you can find the courage and the support, reach out to me. I mean, It's not easy. I mean, it's painful, but when you can get through the pain of the unknown, the beauty on the other side is so rewarding.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, it's the fear of the unknown more than anything is what's really stopping people. It's not like it's just that there's something they haven't done before, you know? So I think this is going to be running out of time soon, but I wanted to share, oh, we have like 5 more minutes. So I wanted to share, like, let's say if you had like one tip to share with the world, what would it be?
Oh man. I would say don't give up. Don't give up on your dream. Don't give up on yourself. Be kind to yourself. I've experienced this lately. I'm a runner and I'm getting slower. So it's easy to be critical of yourself and put yourself down and say, well, why can't I do what I could before? Why am I so slow now? Give yourself grace because as we age, the reality is, and I have scans that I'm sharing when I present of our brains are changing. Our brains are changing every day. They change because of the influences in our lives, because of the phones that we look at for 8 hours a day. They're changing. And so there are ways with neuroplasticity to continue to move forward. And part of that is number one, being kind to yourself and giving yourself grace to explore new things. Never lose your passion for learning and being connected because once you do that, you will lose more gray and white matter. I was sharing brain scans of individuals with dementia. Their brain scan, a lot of them looks like they're hollow, like their brain, like the cerebral fluid around their brain is there, but the insert of their brain is gone. It's not their fault. I mean, the thing is, you as a person, you look at them and you don't know that their brain, their white and gray matter is gone. And so the thing is, like, we have to continue so we don't lose as much gray and white matter and we continue to thrive, that we continue to learn and be connected with people. And the more we can do that and we spend less time looking at our phones and more time looking at each other, the more we can continue to grow and learn. So
I
that's what
love
I
that.
would tell everybody.
Beautiful. Yes, I completely agree. I think that's the kind of the number one tip I think that everybody should focus on. Be outside more, be with humans more, prioritize that. Make that a priority. Literally put it on the schedule to do something that is in person.
Mm,
Because it's easy to kind of just hop on Zoom, which is great, but sometimes, it's very, very important
hmm.
to also prioritize, your own humanity.
And it doesn't have to be for a long time. I was in Minnesota last week at an event and I stopped by a client office for like 30 minutes, 20 minutes and just was with them. And it was incredible. Like you feel better when you connect with other people. So take the time to do that.
Yes, I love it. I love it. Okay, so we have like 3 minutes left. So how can we support you? Where can we find you? Anything you want
Uh,
to share?
well, if you want to connect with me, I'm on LinkedIn, Dr. Gina Anderson. You can find me through my company, lumabrighterlearning.com. You can go to my website, learningwithgina.com. I'm on Instagram. Also, I think it's Gina
I'll
Anderson
put the
Dysard.
links in the
Okay, my Instagram's
description.
a little different because there's a
I'll
lot of people with my name. So,
I'll
but
find it.
but I'm on Instagram. And you can listen to my podcast. I Love Learning. It's on YouTube.
I love
I
it.
actually bring people on my podcast who have minds of a champion. So everyone has hurdles in their life. Just connect with people, share your stories, love each other, be kind. I love that so much.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, I just want to do a 2 minute acknowledgement of you. I love everything you're doing. I love everything you're creating, and you have such a passion for learning. Oh, yes, the light, the light. I love everything you're creating. I wish you more success and
Thank
all the
you.
bigger stages to speak on, possibly,
Thank
so
you.
that more people kind of know about these things. I think it's very important. But yeah, so I definitely wish you all the amazing, amazing things. And thank you to Zach for connecting us. We forgot to mention Zach.
Oh,
Yes,
Zach, he's incredible. He
he's
helped me with my
amazing.
mom. He does caregiving work. So I took care of my mom who had dementia. So he's amazing resource.
I am like, yes, I'm so impressed with Zach. Like, that was such a beautiful connection. So, thank you to Zach for connecting us.
Yes.
It's amazing. And I love the whole community you guys have. I know you have your gratitude. Oh, thank you to connecting me to Kevin.
Oh,
Yes, I
yeah.
did the whole gratitude. It was amazing. I'm gonna do the next one. It's super, super awesome. I think it's a beautiful thing to know that, there are good communities, there are people that are supportive. There are
Hmm.
people that will help if you need help. So it's super beautiful. But yeah, so thank you so much for your time. And we will share this episode and it's gonna be amazing. I'll share it and I'll email you all
Thank
the
you so much.
links to it. Um, all right. Well, thank you so much. Have a good
Thank
day.
you. All right. Bye.